Hey guys, Dib the Awesome here to give you a. I was gonna say just War Master Guide there. Almost screwed up the title. Uh, Welcome to a Monster Legends Guides where I talk about a monster's moves, rune sets, partners, all that jazz. And today, yes, we are talking about a War Master, but I don't call them War Masters Guides because I know it's just all this particular guide is about War Masters. You get my point. Bam! The day's guide is on War Master Elvira. This monster is looking pretty spicy, my boys and gals. If you do get enough orbs, the 2,300 orb requirement, pick this monster up. It's busted. I give it the sad approval. Stupid and dumb. This thing was designed to carry you through stupid amounts of good hardcore games. It's just an easy pay. It's like play the box. That's how stupid this thing is. You know, I hate play the box monsters. Period. This is this is pretty play the box. There's no real skill with this monster. Like none. Like the bare minimum, the skill level bar of this monster is just 0. It's play the box. It's really good. It's dumb. That's gonna be said for a lot of new monsters or monsters that are in the end of mazes of it. No, this thing is dumb. It's labeled. It's sad, stupid, and dumb. It's labeled that. It's on the back of it. The label. It's designed to carry. This monster is really good. I actually got a chance to fight against one during a live stream, and it lasted forever. It's just dumb. It was only level 100 too. Imagine like a fully ranked one. So this is Elvira. Power 3,476. Pretty much over the gospel power. This is actually relatively nice for the monster because some of its base damage I do believe were pretty solid. Like, yeah, at least a 70 damage scale. Yeah, it had 70s to 60. So it has the ability to use the relatively high base power, or at least the acceptable base power. The acceptable base power of any given monsters is always 465. 3,465. So if you have that power, you can be a damage dealer. Like in terms of a moderate success rate, you can be a damage dealer. If you're below that, questionable. But runes and maxing out your monster fixes that problem. Life 41,922. This thing is a tank. This thing has so much life, it's unjustifiable given the nature of the monster. But it's able to take advantage of this. This thing's a pain to deal with in later ranks. You'll never kill this. This thing is very, very long lasting. If anything, this is quite possibly the tankiest monster in the game, and it doesn't even have, the highest base life in the game. Personally, I think that's a ridiculous thing to go by. In terms of tanky monsters, I like to go by how well do their skills keep them alive. Personally, and this thing has a lot of things that can keep it alive, like astronomical levels. I think this is the best tank in the game through various reasons. I just do. And thanks to the fact a lot of people are just running Flamurion on defense, it just kind of boosts its playability. It kind of means that they're not running metal damage at the moment. Because I do believe Flamurion only runs fire and special base damage. I don't think he has a metal base skill. So it's looking pretty good. It's looking really, really good in terms of sustainability here, my boys and gals. Speed 3,498. Pretty good speed. It's it's fast. It is very fast, so it's faster than most team speed monsters. A lot of people are running various kinds of builds for it, like full team strength, full team speed. I know that first one was really weird. It's not too common to hear that some person actually built team strength on a monster. But people have been running it on this thing and have been seeing good success because what this actually does is it improves probably your 2 damage dealers. A lot of people are just shoving 2 damage dealers with this monster and just win games nonstop. It's the perfect offense team because you don't need to deny at that point. You start the game off with the evasion. I haven't even gotten to the trait yet. This is why this monster is so good. This is the play the box like label. This is the biggest thing. Status effects have a 35% less accuracy against it or her. So you're already missing status effects to begin with. 35% of the time you're missing a stun. You're missing just a control effect. Gives everyone on her team blind. So everyone's immune to blind, so that means blind and total blind. So you just can't be you won't be missing. You're guaranteed to land most of your stuff, or if not everything. I don't think it covers days, but you're just immune to blind and total blind, so you will hit most of the time. Either that or guaranteed. Because I do believe she has precision skills that boost that. And applies AoE evasion at the start of battle. This starts at the beginning of the game and only procs at the beginning of the game. Once this has been done, this part of the trait is now dead because it doesn't proc anymore. It only procs at the start of battle. But the moral of the story is you have evasion and you haven't even done anything yet. You didn't have to do any controls. You didn't have to do, any skills. You didn't have to worry about stamina drain. Nothing. You are protected at the beginning of the game. You cannot be harmed at all. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard as a competitive ML player. In terms of just at the beginning of the game, no speed control related thing. No, you're just immune to all damage at the beginning of the game because of this trait. It procs immediately at the beginning of the game, and she can still move. You can still do things. They've also buffed evasion to the point where you dodge stamina drain and cooldowns activate too. So you just get your turn in guaranteed. You will move guaranteed turn 1. Everyone gets a free turn in. This means there's a lot more playability now in terms of your other two choices. You don't necessarily need a setup monster anymore. You can run two monsters that either do astronomical damage to begin with, like Baratagor. I've been hearing major success with Baratagor. Everyone's just been winning games with Elvira Baratagor. Simply because Baratagor doesn't need a setup partner. All he really needs is the protection. And Elvira offers that. Elvira guarantees his turn and he can board white. Very, very easy. You don't have to run speed on Baratagor anymore. You don't have to do any of that on any of your damage dealers. You could run like full strength on both damage dealers, and as long as your enemy doesn't have a way to remove the positive effects, you just win the game. You just win. That's the scenario. You win. You could run full strength on the other two monsters. They could have a bunch of turns in. You just win. You just win, period. If the enemy does not remove the AoE evasion, you are guaranteed to win. It is guaranteed. There is no, but what if? No, you just lose. You just straight up lose. Unless the enemy can AoE evasion on the start of your turn, like a Gakora, for example, but that's very unlikely. Odds are their monsters will go before your monsters get to do that, so it's very unlikely. But this lets you do a whole bunch of things you couldn't do normally. Normal setup is like a denier, a support, and then a damage dealer. Now you could just shove two damage dealers and you can call it good. You can board wipe. It's ridiculous. Forgiveness requires repentance. Deals insane light damage to all enemies, removes all positive status effects from all enemies, and applies a mega stun to every single person on the enemy team. This is really good against other Elviras. This is basically anti-Elvira ultimate, and oddly enough, it's on her herself. So she herself counters herself. I know that's kind of ridiculous to hear, but that's the truth. If you ever want to counter a fellow Elvira comp, just run a slower team with a fellow Elvira. I think the only time this doesn't apply is when they run a remove positive effects skill. I do believe she does that, right? I mean, her ult does it, but does she herself actually? Okay, she herself can actually she herself can actually remove the positive effects, but if they run a monster that does, not good for you. Uh, but yeah, this is let's talk about the new next stuff now. Let's say we talked about her trait. That's ridiculous. Talked about the ultimate. That's really good. Her relics are the amulet and the sword relic, which are really good. This allows you to build very self-tanky. She has relics to sustain herself. Sorry, I was just closing the door. It's getting a little noisy upstairs, so that's just what I had to do. But yeah, sword amulet. You can run icebreaker and great sword. This doesn't proc on mega stun. I learned that it never does proc on mega stuns. So you just have to kind of find a monster that does AoE stunning. The amulets, you can run healing amulet or the stamina recovery to sustain your stamina once you've ran out of stamina. And trust me, you'll run out of stamina. Not because the moves are high on stamina. It's just because you'll get so many turns in and take no damage, and you'll just sustain through everything. Because you're Elvira. You're one of the best tanks in the game. And you're not even running any life run. You're not running life runs. It's just solely based on your support skills. You do so much healing, so much reduced damage. It's just dumb. Damage protection. I think we're gonna talk about damage protection real quick. She has a better AOE skill that does the same thing. But basically, she can reduce all damage you take by 50%. This is amazing against anything that relies on double damage because basically it cancels out the double damage. Because you do half of 2, or you could just do like 1.5 rather than 2. But regardless of it, you just survive through stuff better, which is amazing. That's good. Protect the light blocks all damage from light except for 1 turn on 1 ally for 1 turn. So with a single target, you can put it on a single person, and they only take light damage. They can't take any other form of damage. This is a really good, target sustain skill. Basically, if you don't want something dead, you put it on them, and this is honestly one of the best protection buffs in the game. It's always been really, really good. This thing has always been a staple for Valgar comms, for Queen I think Lilithan. It's the elf light monster. But this has always been a really good buff. This pretty much overshadows even Ogma's buffs. Like Ogma has all these elemental buffs, but this just kind of overshadows all of them because it's all just built into one skill basically. But all it doesn't cover is light damage, and for the most part, light damage only comes from like the supports. More often than not, people would rather run a light support than they would a light damage dealer. So basically, you're not taking any damage at all, which is amazing. I will say run this skill if you want just absolute protection from damage. You just don't want to take any damage. This is one of the skills to run. Sinner Agony, this deals an AoE damage, 1 turn cooldown with a 50% chance of sunburn. I'd say this is a pretty spammable skill. She probably has better things to use though. We'll see. Removes all negative stats effects from all allies. Applies damage boost to all allies. So it's just clearing and damage boost. I'm not too much of a fan on it. It's kind of meh. Deals very heavy light damage to one enemy. Applies 50% damage boost to protection to all allies. This is really good. I think this is the AoE skill I was talking about. I'd say run it for sure 100. You might want to replace it at some point, but for right now, this is looking pretty spiffy. I'd run this at 100. For sure. Deals very massive light damage to one enemy. Applies sunburn to one enemy. Very bursty light skill with a 70 damage base scaling. Really good against other Elviras. I will say if it's a Elvira v Elvira fight, running the skill wouldn't be too bad of an idea. Just to get past the light barrier. Removes all negative status effects from all allies. Heals all allies by 50%. This skill is ridiculous. It cleans up and then it heals you by 30%. I guess you could say the downside of this, it is on a 3-turn cooldown, so it's gonna be a while before you can use it again. Though the effects are still amazing. If you have Yamada on your team, this skill is 100% heal. You will just fully life reset with a single press of a button. So what you could actually wind up doing is you could do heal boot. You could run like Yamada, this thing, and probably like a damage dealer if you do board wipe on the enemy team, if there's still something left alive, which would be really strange. Because you could basically just run full team strength on both Yamada and Elvira, and then the precision, the precision skill on Yamada goes, and then your damage dealer goes, board wipes. Odds are that damage dealer is probably like a Barbatos or something, and you could just board wipe. Like there's so many teams you could just board wipe with. You could run if there's something still alive. It's not like the damage dealer. You could just heal off any damage they will ever do to you. Like, overheal it. Just for the sick lulls. And just over-sustain. This is a really good skill, especially at 100. I do recommend 100 Elviras run this. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Rebuke the Sinner. Rebuke the Sinner. Deals moderate... deals heavy light damage to all enemies. Applies sunburn. to everybody on the enemy team. This is a good skill. I'd say run it if she doesn't have anything better. Let's see what else she has. Removes all negative status effects, heals all allies by 35%, applies precision and damage boost to all allies. This has reduced healing than the skill of skill groups 3. It has the same cooldown, slightly more stamina. I would run this skill. Yeah, man, I wouldn't mind running both heals. Both heals seem really nice. That just guarantees you're not just taking one, you're just healing up all the damage they do to you, and you're removing all negative status effects too. Negative effects are very common nowadays, and overheal and plus remove all negative effects is good. Ethereal Vigilance deals heavy special damage to one enemy, applies sunburn and bleed to one enemy, applies evasion to itself. So this basically means you avoid everything while also doing a DOT, 2 DOTs actually, to the enemy, reducing 25 per turn. This is really good in 1v1 fights. I'd say this is astronomically good in 1v1 fights. This is really good. I'd say use this in scenarios where Elvira is the only thing left, and you can pretty much guarantee a win. Simply because if you notice the cooldown rotation, like with any of her, damage avoidance things, they're always 3 turns, or at least like this is actually on a 2-turn cooldown. But you see my point. You can actually sustain yourself for quite a bit, and for Photobuick Shield actually lasts for 2 turns. It's always only ever lasts for 1, I believe, but this lasts for 2. This is really good. This lasts for 2 turns. I only thought this lasted for 1. This version actually lasts for 2 turns. So you can just avoid damage altogether. If the enemy doesn't have anything to remove your positive effects, you just don't take any damage. If you do ever take damage, you're only taking half. Especially if you time the skill right. If the Phobiuric Shield goes off, then you can go for the damage reduction on it. Everyone gets 50% less damage they take, and it's just good sustainability overall. She basically makes everyone on the team a tank. It's so dumb. It's a really good monster. Light Salvation deals heavy light damage to one enemy, blocks all light damage except light damage for all allies. This requires a cooldown of 3 turns. So this is an AoE version. You can pick up this AoE. Seeing this, I would think for the most part people would have this either 2 to 3. So in terms of a 2 to 3 setup, let's say let's say at first you have it at rank 2, right? The 2 skills I'd pick up here for rank 2, for every time you rank up, this monster, you get access to one of these skills. I would pick up the AoE Light of Salvation. This is a really good protection skill. I would pick up the AoE Heal. I'd personally pick up these damage skills last. Like the dead last skill I'd actually pick up is the AoE Sunburn. I don't think you need it for the most part. I'd pick up these 2 first. If you're wondering which one should you pick up for the first one, if you only get to rank 105 first, pick up Light Salvation first, because it really just covers you from all damage. Like everyone on the team is covered by all damage except light damage, so you're basically immune to all damage for that turn, except light damage. But again, everyone just runs light supports or just a fellow Elvira, so this just works. Just roll with it. So you're just immune to all damage for that turn, basically. So I pick up that, and then I pick up the heal. But let's say if it's like 105, but yeah, so you pick up the Light Salvation, right? I would pick up from this could go for like 100 to 1. Let's say 0 to 1, okay? Let's say if the monster's rank 0 to 1, I'd pick up Aura of Forgiveness, the AoE damage reduction, the protecting light, and the Repent Center. The reason why I pick up Repent Center is if, in case of the event I'm fighting a fellow Elvira, it does light block on a specific ally. If it's going for the single target one, then I can actually do damage for that turn to it. Pretty good chunk at that as well. It's just good for that scenario. But But yeah, if you have it at 2, I'd pick up the Lights of Salvation, War Master Aura, Aura Forgiveness, and I think the last one's up to you. You could go for Forbutic Shield or the Words Won't Save You. Personally, I'd pick up Words Won't Save You because it has more AoE use and it rotates well with the rest of her kit. Everything's on a 3-turn cooldown, so every like the first skill you use at the beginning of the game, once you've used all your other 3 skills, it goes back to that one. And again, it just goes off from there. It's all rotational based. It's a really good rotation. However, with this build in particular, you are cooldown heavy. You're very very cooldown heavy. Uh, that's about it in terms of rune set or skill set. If you get this all the way to 3, let's say 3 to max, build would be Light of Salvation, War Master's Aura. You know what? I think I'd just keep that universally. I think I would just keep that skill set up because then she would just be the support that not only never really dies, but she makes everyone else not die. I think this is the best build for her support wise. If you're gonna go damage dealer, obviously run the AoE, run the single target special base skill, 70 damage skill, and I think the last one you can just do whatever you want. Probably let's go for damage reduction, I guess. Why not? That's what I would do. So if you're gonna run her damage, I would run her the special base skill, the sunburn AoE, single target skill, and the Words Won't Save You. If I was going for damage, that is. If I was just going overall, Aura of Forgiveness, War Master's Aura, Light of Salvation, and Words Won't Save You. This just makes you stupid. This makes you as stupid as possible. People will hate you if you run this build. It's the best build. There's no doubt about it. You just get team sustainability. This is so dumb. You're already not taking any damage to begin with, and even if you do take damage, you heal it off. It's no big. It's basically. It basically makes sure you don't really take any damage. This thing is designed to basically protect everyone on the team. It does such a phenomenal job at that. It just does that. There's nothing you really need to worry about when you run this thing. I think a thing that's not good about this monster, sadly, is it can't really remove positive effects naturally, except by ultimate, of course. I'm not counting the ult. I'm just counting the base kit here. So if you don't have ults, you're kind of in trouble if the enemy's team is slower than yours. If they are also running an Elvira, because you also lose your evasion for that turn. But then again, you could just go for the AoE, if you actually did get that right away. So it's kind of hard to really. Yeah, I don't really know. I think it's just pretty much a fight up in the air at that point. It's hard to really tell. But I think even if the player, let's say that you don't actually get to benefit from Elvira's AoE evasion. If Elvira does get to go before your team, the rest of your 2 monsters on your team, you can just do Light of Salvation, and all you really do is take damage from the enemy's Elvira. Probably the 70 damage or 55 damage reduction skill. 50% damage reduction, 50 damage. You get my point. Skill, not too much. You just have to make sure that person doesn't die. But for the most part, you should be winning. Yeah, it's a very easy monster to win with. Counters real quick. What really counters this monster? I think Gokora. Really, just anything that doesn't rely on deny. For the most part, if you want to really just avoid this monster at all costs, just use things that don't rely on deny. Use Gokora. Use Alex Bone. You just evade everything to begin with. Any evasion monster really kind of bothers her. One, she's not landing any of her damage skills or DOTs. But you can't bother her as well, so it's kind of up in the air. But for the most part, I think Gokora is a huge counter pick for her. I think that's the hugest one, because I do believe. Actually, they don't share any of the books together. Oh, let's see here. She's the best winged monster. I know that much. That's easy. She's easily the best one in terms of female monsters. Oh, let's see here. Nishan's bodyguard, and Azuriel, I do believe she has either a single target cooldowns activation or an AoE cooldowns activation. Uh, I hear Angelica's a good pickup for her. So if you actually take the time to make her through doing the dailies, that's really good. Um, do 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 do. I don't think Baroness removes positive effects. I don't think she did that. Uh, I think that's it for female monsters. Yeah, it's looking about that. There's very few female for female counters. Exclusives, you could run Sammy. You could probably run. Well, Zyron don't do you any good because the monsters are immune to the control effects at that point in time. So you have to wait that turn. I guess it wouldn't matter if you're running like a Gakora and then running really slow Zyron, so the enemy goes uh, before your Zyron, so you can just land that easier. Bum 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 bum. War Master Barbael. I think he had to remove positive effects. I think he did that. Gortox, pretty good. Um, I think that's about. Oh, the Sammys, of course. Samuel. Any Samuel, I think can counter. Except the DD is the weakest one of the bunch. I think Fever Scatter and Plague carry more on the match. But that's genuinely about it. It's really hard to counter this monster. This is actually one of the, if not the best monster in the game at the moment. Evasion's just really good, and she just sets it off at the beginning of the game. And she has ways to make it so you just don't take any damage. But yeah, that's it for this video. This is a Elvira guide. I hope this guide was very educational for you. Runes, you can build whatever as far as I'm concerned. It just, you guaranteed a turn, and you could run her damage. You can run our support, do whatever, my boys or gals. This thing is busted. This is one of the most ridiculous monsters in the game. But yeah, that's it for this video. I'm Dib the Awesome. Catch you guys later.